G'day guys, Rhys here from Spinlight Studio. Super stoked to be on Kiive Audio's channel today, and in this video what we're going to do is mix some pop punk style drums using Kiive Audio plugins. The track we're working on is from a band called Chasing Clarity, and you can listen to this song on Spotify or any streaming services. It is called You Got Me Sick, and it's a pretty awesome track that I had the pleasure of mixing, and I actually played drums on this. So the drums that we're going to be mixing are played by me and recorded at my studio, and we've got a blend of acoustic drums as well as some triggers in there to make the drums sound a little bit larger than life. And I've already done some rough levels and blended it all together, and now we're going to apply some processing and see what we can do with it. So this is what our drum track is sounding like right now without anything on it. So not too bad, it's a pretty good sound already, but I think we can make this sound a little bit better. So that's just our raw tones with the drum samples. Okay, so let's go from the top down. Let's apply some processing to our drum bus and start there and then kind of work our way through. So the first thing I'm gonna do is check out what have we got in our Kiive Audio plugins here. I'm gonna grab our Warmy EP1A. This is a free plugin, so definitely worth grabbing. So we're just going to do some gentle EQing with this, so just a little boost at 8K and then a little boost at 60 Hertz and a cut at 60 Hertz, which kind of takes away a little bit of the mid-range. So you get a nice little boost around 60 Hertz and then a little bit of a dip afterwards. So it's a cool little trick with the pull text for cleaning up your mids. So that's sounding pretty cool so far. Let's chuck on a bit of compression. So for this, I'm going to use the complex compressor. I think this is a pretty nice compressor on the drum bus. Something kind of like that, a 2-to-1 ratio, kind of around anywhere between 0 to 4 dBs of gain reduction. And I've also turned on the peak limiter, so this is going to help us kind of control any annoying peaks that are going to try and slit through on the drums, especially with the snare drum. It's also making the drum sound a little bit more aggressive, which actually suits the sound of this mix really nicely. Let's bypass these two plugins on and off and see what that's adding to our drums. That's crazy. That's already making a huge difference to the drum sound. So just those two plugins alone. Now let's go into our snare drum. I'm going to try and just add a little bit more snap to this. So I'm going to grab the filk channel. I don't really know. I don't know how do you pronounce it. But we're going to grab this and we're going to have a bit of fun with it. I'm actually feeling a little bit of 1.5K in the snare, hey? Bring that down, it's slamming into our drum bus at the moment. So that's sounding all right. We might try a different EQ on this. Let's go over the EQ1. Pull out some low mids out of the snare. I feel like that's working a little bit better for the snare. Let's try the other compressor. So we're working on the snare bus at the moment. So this is where like our close mic, our snare bottom, and the snare samples are all being sent. We're just kind of top down mixing the snare. So rather than kind of doing the individual channels, we're just processing them all as one big snare sound. I think I prefer that. I think the bell might work a bit better. It's sounding pretty cool. Might kind of back the drum bus off a little bit on the compressor. Add a little bit of side chain. That's a bit nicer. You know, the snare drum is always a bit of work, but basically just doing a big boost around 8K with a bell and a big cut around 5 dBs around 300 Hertz, and then a little boost around 200 Hertz just to bring some thickness back to the snare. Tiny little bit of saturation, not much happening with that, and a tiny bit of compression. For now, I think that's sounding all right. We've got some pretty nasty cymbal bleed going on in here, so we might gate the snare. Now, Complex has a little bit of a gate in it, so let's see if we can muck around with this. So that's kind of helping clean up the snare. Our close mic's got a lot of cymbal bleed coming through as we're boosting all that EQ. So using something like the gate in Complex can really help. So it's doing a pretty good job of cleaning that up. Let's leave the snare like that for now. Let's come back to it maybe a bit later. Let's jump over to our kick and see what we can do here. So same deal, we might gate the kick a little bit. It's pretty good, tidies it up. So that's our kick in mic, and let's have a look at our kick out mic. Tidies it up. Now let's do some processing on our kick bus. So this has got our kick sample as well as our kick in and kick out mic. I mean, I'm fairly happy with how the kick is sounding already, but see if we can sweeten it a little bit. I reckon that sounds pretty nice. We've just given it a little boost to the lows, a little boost to the highs, and then a little boost to the mids as well, around 1.5k. That's just adds a nice little knock to the kick, and then tiny bit of compression. Sounds good. We've got to remember we've already got processing from the top down, so we don't have to necessarily go as hard on the individual processing. All right, let's have a look at our overheads. Probably want to cut some kind of resonance out of this stuff that's sounding a little nasty to me. So let's use fill channel again, and we're going to use EQ1 so we can be a little bit more precise with where we're cutting. I'm going to cut around 4 or 5k, I don't know, anywhere between 4 to 6k is sort of like some harshness in the cymbals at the moment. That's making the cymbals sound a little bit nicer. And then we might cut a little bit around 300 to 400 hertz in the overheads as well. Let's have a listen to what that's doing to the cymbals. Just sweetening them up. It's taking that kind of harsh metallic sound in that upper mid-range and just cooling it down a little bit. So a little cut around 5.8k. Sounded really nice with a bell on EQ1. And yeah, we might chuck a tiny bit of compression on this. Don't need heaps of compression on the overheads. Nice. And then we might grab Whammy and let's just do a tiny boost at around 16k. That's just going to add a little bit of sparkle to our cymbals. All right, let's just do a quick little pit stop and check how things are sounding when we turn all our processing off, see if we're making an improvement. Sounding pretty good to me so far, making the drums nice and exciting. And for this kind of style of music, they need to be bright and punchy and have a nice bit of attack to them, as well as just being a bit aggressive and big and loud. So I think we're on the right track. Let's do some processing to our room mic. Now again, we've got a stereo room mic as well as like an ambience room mic, which is just a microphone that I put down a hallway. Adds a little bit of ambience to the sound. Sounds something like this. It's pretty cool. And then we've just got like a stereo ribbon mic that's close to the drum kit. Just kind of blend them together, and then we're going to process this. I've also got a little bit of reverb on the rooms already. Generally what I do, because I track in a smaller room, so I might just add a little bit of a larger room kind of reverb to it to make it sound a bit bigger. And then we're going to process after that. So let's grab our ADC1 compressor. Now I'm pretty familiar with this because it looks pretty much exactly like my Audioscape decomp. think that's kind of cool. We're making the room kind of bounce a little bit more. It's not as sort of just transient and punchy, but it's sort of a little bit more explosive and compressed, which is kind of what I want to hear out of this, a little bit of trash. And yeah, let's kind of blend that in and see what that sounds like. Kind of like it around there. I think that sounds pretty nice. We might also chuck tape face on here. Love that 7.5 inch tape sound, so it just really rolls off the top end. These rooms a little bit darker. You can boost the low end. Really kind of blow this out. It's really cool. But yeah, I don't think we want this much low end in here anyway, but it does sound really cool. And maybe for a different genre, that would be a pretty cool trick to do on your room to really make the low end boom. Listen to the hi-hats, so when we bypass this off and on. See how much smoother that sounds? So we're taking out the real airy top end of the cymbals in the room mics. And we don't really need heaps of that in there anyway. So this is a great way of doing that, just really smoothing off that top end. Add some nice weight to the drums. You don't need heaps of room sound in there, because obviously when you bring a lot of room in, you lose the punch. So it's about finding that balance between punchy drums and then the ambience of the room sound. Having it kind of low around there, I can hear and feel that it's making the drum sound bigger without kind of like destroying the attack and the aggression of the drums. Alright, I feel like that's sounding pretty cool. Let's find some toms and just do some processing to our tom bus. There's a little bit of cymbal bleed in here, but let's sort of see how we go. And if it becomes a problem, we might try the same thing and just gate it a little bit. Let's get our quick strip. Now, this is a really cool plugin. It's basically like an SSL style channel strip. It looks really similar to the SSL 6-channel 500 series thing, but with a couple of extra options here. But let's play around with this. I'm just going to boost some high end into the toms. Let's do a tiny bit of compression. Turn saturation on and boost the gain. Let's solo it so we can hear what it's doing. Do a little tiny bit of that just to add some grit to the toms. It's just making the toms slap a little bit more. I like that. How cool is that? Again, let's quickly check how's everything sounding now. Sounding pretty good. All right, now let's jump into some parallel processing. So let's try Distinct Pro on our parallel send here to add some extra punch and aggression to the drums. So I'm just gonna solo this, turn it up so we can hear what it's doing. We've got kick being sent, snare being sent, a little bit of toms, a little bit of cymbals, a little bit of room. So we don't want too much cymbal stuff going on in here. Gonna drive the input. So I demoed this plugin pretty recently, and I think they got some immediate feedback after the release, and then they immediately made some changes to the plugin, which is really cool. They've increased the input to plus 24 dB, so you can really drive this in and get it crunchy, which is great. And then they've added a mix knob to the drive section and to the dynamic section, and you can link them together or you can have them unlinked and play with the mix of either side. So really cool, really cleverly thought out and designed plugin. Kind of does everything you need it to do. So let's keep playing with it. Oh, that's starting to sound pretty cool. Really aggressive. So we'll match the input and the output. That's pretty cool. So let's blend this guy in and see what it adds to our drums. So that's sounding so good. So let's quickly listen to how this was sounding before anything. Remember, this is not a bad drum sound. Turn our instrument mix back up a little bit. I honestly think that that is pretty good. We could go further and we could add some saturation to like the kick and the snare, whether we really need it or not, but let's try it out. Why not? Let's put Distinct Pro on the kick and crunch it up a little bit. So we might use the mix knob now and just kind of blend this back a little bit. Adds a little bit extra weight to the kick. Sounds great. Let's try the same kind of thing on our snare bus. Yeah, it's kind of cool. And then we can just, again, blend that back a little bit, link these together. Let's go again, maybe even 40%. Let's see what it sounds like when we take these off the kick and the snare. Sounds pretty cool. Let's bypass everything one last time. So there you go. That is the power of using Kiive audio plugins on mixing some big punchy pop punk drums. And I think that has turned out amazing, and in a really quick amount of time I was able to pull a great sounding drum mix. And if you think these plugins look good, make sure you go over to Kiive Audio's website and check them out. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Kiive Audio's channel, and while you're at it, make sure you come over to my channel as well, Spinlight Studio. I'll get the guys to chuck a link in the description below. I've got heaps of tutorials up there that you can come and check out as well. So if you enjoyed this style of video, make sure you do that. Thanks again to the guys at Kiive Audio for having me on the channel, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode.